But I don't know if just being the two of us will actually be interesting for everyone, but who
Yeah,
knows?
we can try and start an interesting conversation. Maybe people will join us in and out throughout this session. So just to introduce myself, my name is Fatima Amar, and I'm going into my 4th year of nursing at the University of Windsor. And I am the student conference coordinator for the event. And I'm doing that through the research program at my school, which is really nice. And I'm excited to be here. And thank you for being here. So kind of the first question I want to ask, is there anything from yesterday that you heard or learned that felt like that you felt really aligned with your own personal beliefs when it comes to education and online learning? Or was there anything that you completely disagreed with? What do you think?
Well, it was actually like I wasn't expecting for the symposium to be only on online education, because in the description for the symposium, it was like really more open and for online or face-to-face education. So like,
I think
but
when
I guess I think it's actually normal for most of the presentations to be about online education and how the pandemic actually switched something in the learning and teaching process. But yeah, I was actually not expecting it to be only for online education, so
Yeah, I
I
think
was
with this
surprised by
open
that.
learning, I think what that encompasses is other ways of teaching other than just on like virtual, but related to online. So that could be like synchronous or asynchronous learning, for example. Sorry if that was some miscommunication on that part.
No,
But
it's okay. I mean it. I can be the one actually mistaken, because like English, it's the first time that I participate in a English symposium. So
oh, okay. It was exciting. There's a first time for everything, right?
yeah, actually.
I think all the presentations were really interesting. I feel like they all had all very similar ideas, but kind of took different takes. I don't know if you saw this presentation, but I kind of had jumped into one of the sessions where someone was talking about how they use video games to try and engage their students, and then afterwards they kind of go and into breakout rooms and discuss. I thought that was really cool. I never really seen a teacher or professor kind of include virtual video games into their classes, which is nice. I mean, I guess students playing on the age group or like the game that they're using. I mean, that's the norm now, right? People like video games. People like playing online games, and to incorporate that into like the learning, I think that's really really interesting. And I would think that the students enjoyed it. I kind of had to jump out again, but I would think. I mean, who doesn't like playing games at school, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. But yeah, I think there were a lot of nice ideas yesterday. Well, I don't know all of them because I wasn't able to participate in the sharing session number 2 when I was presenting on the sharing session number 1.
Yeah.
But like looking at the debriefing that Dr. Nobuko Fujita and Bonnie Stewart made yesterday, um, I could see that the the students were really put in the center, and with teachers trying to find a way to engage students in the learning online. And because I guess it's kind of hard to get all of our students in an online situation, especially when they are in their home country and not necessarily able to have a permanent access to internet.
Sure. Yeah. And I just feel like online learning is so, everyone said that it's so much harder. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm just kind of like learning in my room. My bed's right next to me, and what's stopping me from kind of jumping into bed? They really, the teachers and the professors really have to work hard to try and engage the students so they, stay at their desks and stay in the classroom. And I think it's, I really appreciate their hard work. I remember when they first said, school's going to be online. I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be a joke, but it's a lot of hard work and planning that goes into it. So I'm really appreciative of the amount of effort, that they put into it this semester and this year. Another question we can kind of go to is kind of besides the debriefing. So from the research sessions that you were able to join, which one was the most interesting, or which one had the most profound topic, in your opinion?
Well, as I say, that could only attend to one session, and it was only with my session, and we were just two presenters in it, so I can't really answer that. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I feel like if once you're engaged in a conversation, it's kind of hard to leave. I kind of was jumping into your session throughout the day, and you guys were having some interesting conversations. Gabriella was in there as well with you guys, right?
Yeah.
My tax student, yeah, that's good. I mean, if you had one good conversation, that's really awesome too. So
it was a really good, a really interesting session though, because yeah, we could really engage also with Gabriella and her telling us about her insight as a student not present on campus, and yeah, she's back in her country, as I understood.
yeah,
So
yeah.
So it was interesting. Also, it's true that I never thought about the fact that students may have different timeline. So to have synchronized session, it could be challenging for teachers, I guess.
I can only imagine. I mean, I think Gabriella is 7 hours ahead of us, but for students who are a little further east, that's 12 hours. Like I know in Australia and China and that time zone, it's 12 hours. I mean, how do you even make synchronous classrooms with students like that? It'll never work almost, because let's say you're going to go as early as like 8 or 9 in the morning. Those students can be 8 or 9 at night. They're getting ready to pack up for the day and get ready for bed. So yeah, it's difficult. And like I said, I think teachers and professors have worked really hard to try and make it work. But I guess some students, maybe it wasn't received as well. Do you think that maybe some students thought the professors or teachers weren't putting in enough work? Or do you think that most students kind of appreciated the work that was put in? Or do you think there wasn't enough put in?
I think, well, from my perspective at the University of Sherbrooke, I know that teachers are really, really careful about the well-being of their students, and the university on itself, actually, like really, they put the students in the center. So I think, at least at the University of Sherbrooke, I don't know anywhere else, but I think at the University of Sherbrooke, it was really appreciated by the students. When I have some insights from my friends in France, I know that it wasn't the same. Like in France, it was just terrible situations for a lot of students. Okay. For online courses, it was really, really, really hard for them. But as part of the like what I saw in the debriefing session, it was really I think the students appreciate all the effort that is made for them to still be engaged in the learning process, and with teachers that they had to think a lot more about the well-being of their students. For sure. So I think it was appreciated by the students. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the focus really had to change. Whereas before it was kind of just in class, you're just making sure that the information is delivered. Of course, in those classrooms, you want to make sure you engage the students as well, but you shift to online and everything's almost elevated. You have to work even harder to make students are engaged. You have to work even harder to make sure that students are doing well and emotionally and academically, because you want to make sure they're learning and getting the content online. But yeah, I agree. It's at my school as well. I feel like the professors and the teachers all worked really hard, and I appreciate it. So kind of another question we can move on to now is, I'm not sure if you were present with us at the keynote speech, second one at the end of the day, but
I couldn't be present neither for this one. I I had to come on and off yesterday. It was
no worries. So there's this idea of ungrading that was brought up. It's kind of trying to move away from giving students numeric grades, kind of you finished with 85, you finished with 75. And Jess, the keynote speaker at the time, was talking about how she communicates with her students and they negotiate grades and trying to make sure students get grades that they think they deserve. What do you think about that? Kind of moving away from traditional marking and traditional grading. What do you think about that topic?
well, it's a shame that I couldn't be here because I totally agree with the keynote speaker. I really hate to have to grade my students because I don't know. It's kind of whack. It's kind of weird to grade some kind of thinking of intelligence or what we think that is a good work or not, because the student then doesn't really think about the grading and what to do to have a good grade or whatever. Like they do what they think they have to do to have to be well seen by the teacher in a way. So they're not really engaging in their own they're not really engaging in their own work. Like as a student myself, when I understood that my PhD is for me and not for my teachers and not for any grading, then I started really to think and to engage more in my research project than before. Before I was just like, okay, I have to do that or this for my teacher and or for my supervisor, and it wasn't. I wasn't really. Sometimes I wasn't really seeing what was the goal of what I was doing. So by not having gradings, and so you have to engage yourself and really to think, okay, what should I learn from the exercise that I have, more than okay, the teacher wants it, so I'm gonna give it to this teacher.
Yeah, for sure. And this is actually brought up yesterday as well. They were saying how with grades, students are just focusing on the number instead of actually learning the content. Their only goal is, I want to be a straight A student, so my goal is to get an 80. They don't really care how they get the grade. They don't know, or they're not really focusing on the actual information. It's just making sure that they get the grade. And it's really unfortunate because, especially, international students are coming from different countries and, living alone or meeting or, being away from family and friends. And, obviously you want those students to make sure that they're learning. I mean, that's what they're here for. And to hear that some students are just focusing on the grade and just the number, I think it's really unfortunate. So I agree with you as well. I think there were some people who were kind of mentioning kind of removing grades completely, which I don't know if would be possible. I feel like, and if it does happen, I think that'd be very, very far in the future. But the idea of negotiating grades with students and saying, what do you think you deserve? What do you think that you should get based on the work that you put in? I think that's really amazing. And I think that's the direction that all schools should go in.
But I think also the grading system is really to put competition into learning. And I'm really not sure that we can stop grading anytime soon, because when you look at scholarships, also when you apply for a scholarship, you have to be a straight A student, especially when you are an international student coming from a country where scholarship doesn't exist. Or is not really needed, because in France, university is pretty much free. Like you have anyway fees to pay, but it's not like here you have in Canada you have to pay three grand per year to study. In France it's €300 or something for the full year. So so to be in this competitive setting, you have to get straight A's to get scholarships, or to get also financial. I don't know how it's called in English, but like when you're doing your research and you want to have subvention, money to get to do your research. I mean,
like a research grant.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be a straight A person or something or someone who had scholarships, and for international students, it's really hard to get those scholarships.
For sure, yeah, for sure. Oh, someone joined us and left us again, but that's okay. We'll continue our conversation. Kind of branching off from this idea of ungrading, how do you think international students would appreciate that? I know students, a lot of students, at least in our university, are coming from India, China, the Middle East, and a lot of the learning there is very focused on, it's teacher-centered. So the teacher teaches, the student, memorizes and does a test, and they get a grade. So it's very grade-oriented, very teacher-centered. Do you think that international students would appreciate ungrading, or this idea of ungrading, or do you think it would be a hard transition?
Oh, definitely a hard transition. Definitely. It's, I think, a whole mental process to, like, first step is to change to a different academic culture. So if on top of that you put an ungraded system, international students will be lost completely. So it will be, I think, it's already really hard for them, I feel, and that's what I'm trying to find out actually in my research. It's really hard for them to switch to a culture which is student-centered and not teacher-centered. So the student has to be active in their learning and the process, and they have a lot of teamwork, and they have to engage with others in order sometimes to get a good grade. You have to engage with other students. So this is already hard for them. So if you put on top of that an ungrading system, it has to be really, really well explained, and to really for the student to understand why is it like this. So universities already have troubles to walk the international students through the new cultural system. So adding on top of that an undergraduate system, university will never be able to really, well, I never say never, but I feel like universities will never be able to really explain the how and the why for an ungraded system.
For sure, yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of just me thinking out loud. I feel like it's easier for universities to take students in based on grades. Through that, it's kind of just a system. It ranks the students from highest to lowest, and then the top students get in, right? If they start doing other ways, including grades, let's say they start doing essays and recommendation letters. And I know many schools do that already in addition to grades. But I know my school and I know other schools, it's all just based on your high school average. So those undergraduate programs they probably don't want to do any of that extra work. They just want to make it based on grades. So I feel like that's going to be really difficult for them too, if they know the trend of or education kind of starts moving towards this ungrading idea. They'll have to make a really big change, and I don't know if they're ready for that either.
Yeah, teacher, that's true. For teacher, it's really so much easier to grade, and it's just time consuming to go through an undergrad system. Like, yeah, when you're a teacher, you have to grade. you just have, yeah, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's not, and
Yeah, and to be
here's
fair,
so good.
yeah, and to be fair, I mean, university classes can be really, really large. So it's easier for the professor. It's also more practical sometimes for the professor to just do a test, like a multiple choice test. Some courses, I don't know about your school. You can tell me afterwards, but in my school, some classes can be up to like 300 students, and I mean, it's just not very practical for a teacher to only do written assignments and essays and papers and stuff like that. Sometimes tests, like multiple choice tests, is the way to go. How big do your classes get in your school?
Well, I don't know for undergrad students, but in School of Education for graduated students, so master degrees and PhD degrees, we are not so many people. It's just like I think in the classes that I attended, we were 15 top.
Okay.
So
Smaller
I
number.
think for postgraduate students, it might be easier to install this kind of ungraded system. But for undergraduate students, it might be trickier.
Yeah.
I think one of my supervisor has a class of 60 students. So this starts to be a bit more difficult to.
Yeah. Maybe graduate schools and graduate programs can start off, and then maybe some other programs will start trickling in. Who knows? We'll see how things go. I mean, everything's always changing, right? Education's
Yeah,
always evolving, so who knows where we'll be in the future.
yeah, it might change actually.
Yeah. Kind of talking about, future in education. Where do you see online education in the future? Do you think after this pandemic things are going to go back to normal? Do you think, or forever changed? What do you think?
I think it's forever changed. I hope for comeback of face-to-face education at the University of Sherbrooke and at my school. Actually, we're thinking already in going back in face-to-face for at the fall. We were talking about that this morning just before the symposium. And but I think anyway we will have a switch, meaning that we will be more inclined to go into a hybrid kind of teaching, like more into like I think it will be more asking students to follow some kind of online parcours than in class, arriving in class to solve problems with what they saw and what they read online, actually. I think it will be a 50-50 kind of thing.
Yes, our school is kind of going in that direction as well. We've got emails saying how they're going to do a hybrid way of learning. I think that works out really nicely because the students, at least the students who like in person, will be able to have some courses in person, and then students who preferred online will be able to have that as well. But I think I agree. I don't think we'll be going back to normal after the pandemic. I don't think anything will, but especially with learning, it just changed so drastically. And I think for the better. I think a lot of people learned a lot, and they took a lot out of this situation. And hopefully things change, like I said, for the better. So I don't think we'll be going back either. Is
Yeah,
there?
we
Good.
had to make this switch. So since we had to make this switch, we won't want to come back to what it was before, because like all of what we learned and all of what we put in place will be lost if we're just going back to before, and humankind doesn't like to lose something, so
For sure, yeah. And I see someone joining us here. Bing Bing, actually. Hi, this is actually my tech student who's going to be joining us in a few weeks. I'm not sure. Bing Bing, if you want to turn on your mic and join the conversation, we're kind of just talking about the future of education and whether we think things will go back to normal or if they'll change for the better. What do you think? Not sure if they can. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think she's with us right now, but Bing Bing, if you can hear me, you can jump in whenever you'd like. But kind of something else I kind of want to talk about in this topic is what's one specific thing that you think changed for the better? Something that personal to you or something that you noticed your students really liked? What's one thing that you think changes for the better?
I think the fact that teachers had to be more careful about students' needs and well-being. Yeah, teachers had to really think about their relationship with their students. And I think that changed for the better. Even though it was challenging for some of them to go online because they didn't really necessarily knew about computers and all of everything in computer, internet, etc. For young teachers, it may be easier for you and me, for example, because we kind of grew up in this kind of settings with internet, etc. But for like older teachers, it might have been really more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And by having to go online, they also had to think, how do I engage with my students? And did my students also encounter the same troubles that I had going online? So yeah, the relationship between teacher and learners or teachers and students definitely is going better than before, I think.
For sure, and I agree. And something I also noticed is just the communication between students and the teachers and even the school. I feel like my school, they sent out a lot of resources to students, mental health and just different campus resources that they could access. And I really appreciated that because, before they did send them out, but not as much as they did this year. So it's really appreciated. And I can see in the chat here, Bing Bing is saying how she can't talk right now, and that's okay. Feel free to listen to us, and you can use the chat. You can jump in whenever you'd like. But another thing I wanted to ask, actually, just off the top of my head. So I was born in the city I live in, so I go to school in Windsor, Ontario. My family's here, so I wouldn't know. I'm kind of just asking yourself, who traveled for school. Do you think this online switch? Do you think students like that more? Or do they not like it? Because I'm thinking in my head, online, that means students can stay home and be with family and just go to school online. But then kind of like the opposite direction, I'm thinking maybe students were really excited to try and, go to a different place and, experience the culture and learn more about that. Do you think it was kind of like 50-50? Do you think international students prefer the online? Do you think they would have wished they could have went to the institution's country?
Well, I really have no idea because I have actually no problem in being in a foreign country, etc. Like I traveled a lot and I moved a lot from countries to countries, so I'm not really so close to my family.
Okay.
So if it was if it was for me not being in the country where I'm studying, which I'm actually like here in Canada in Sherbrooke and studying in the University of Sherbrooke, but if I was studying in Sherbrooke while I was being in France, I think I wouldn't have liked it. at all. Because when you decide to go study in a foreign university or in a university in a foreign country, you have the will to go to this country to discover how it's like, to understand more how the academic world is working. And by being in your home country, you don't have this switch of, okay, I'm in another country. It's not the same as in my country, and it would be more difficult to really understand how it's working. Because I believe that when you are in a country, then you can impregnate yourself. I'm sorry for my pronunciation. Sometimes it's terrible.
Do not apologize.
But you can really feel, and you sometimes you understand things just by feeling or by observing what's happening around you.
For sure, yeah.
And if you can't see that, sometimes you will not have, okay, I'm studying in this country, so it works like this. Yeah, if you're in your home country, starting in a new university, then you won't be able to feel the switch really in the cultural differences in university.
And Bing Bing, I'm seeing in the chat, she agrees as well, saying how she would like to explore the different culture, and that's what I would think too. I feel like if I, was going to study abroad and be an international student somewhere, I would, have already put, or I would have already had the mindset of being ready to leave, like you said, Adele. So I personally would have loved to have been in person and to explore the culture in the new place I was going to, but unfortunately that wasn't possible this year. Oh, someone left us again. I was gonna do the conversation, but never mind. It's okay. Kind of taking like another direction here. From yesterday's morning keynote, there was this idea of, they discussed how learning needs to be more accessible to everyone. I know earlier we kind of mentioned how education is very competitive. Who can afford school, who has the grades for school. And then in the Blue Sky University by Nadia and Shannon and Emily, they were talking about how school needs to be more accessible for everyone. What are ways that you think that this can be possible? What's the biggest barrier, do you think, and how can we make that more accessible for international students?
Money. Definitely. It's something that is problematic, because if you want to, for a lot of students, it's not my case, and actually I was pretty lucky about that, to have some money to start studying in Canada. But for some students who want to go study abroad, or they're starting over to study, and they didn't had really good grades before engaging in a new studying beginning, they can't have scholarship to go study abroad. So and it's really expensive also to go to a country, and to move to a country. It's really expensive, because first you have the plane tickets, then arriving in the country, you have a lot of stuff to buy that you can't necessarily buy in your home country. Like, for example, someone from the south of Vietnam cannot buy proper clothes for a winter in Canada. So this person has to buy it when he or she arrives in Canada, and it's expensive. You also have shoes. You also have an apartment where you have to buy furniture. Sometimes you have to buy linen for the beds. You have not linen. I'm not very sure about the word, but sheet beds.
Yeah, the bed sheets and the covers. Yeah.
You have to sometimes you will want to buy a car because you found an apartment, but actually the bus is not really developed where you live, so you want to have a bit more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You have insurance also to pay, and the university one is pretty cheap compared to what it could be if it wasn't by the university, but it's still really expensive. Like it's 1 grand by year for a year as an international student, at least at University of Sherbrooke. So it costs a lot, and I think it's the thing that blocks some students from going studying. And also, yeah, the university on itself, you have to pay fees, tuition fees, depending on the country. But yeah, all of that, it's really expensive. Studying abroad is really expensive. So
It's very unfortunate because a lot of students come here for the higher education and for the idea that in European or Western countries there's that um, the word I'm looking for is kind of like that higher status, almost like European and Western countries. They have better education. So a lot of students give up a lot to try and get that, and sometimes it's very, very hard. Like you said, the money it's ridiculous. Like so there's like tuition that students pay who are in the area, and then the international students, it's like double, triple the tuition. And I think that's very, very unfortunate that they're doing that to international students, because they're students just like everybody else. There's no need to um, charge them that much. I mean, pretty sure the amount they're getting is more than enough.
and I don't understand. Like at the University of Sherbrooke, I looked up recently for my thesis, and international students who are not from France or Belgium, so I was kind of lucky in a way, they have to pay triple or even more, 4 times
Yeah.
the tuition that a French Canadian student pay for the university, and I don't understand why.
It's very unfortunate. That's definitely something that needs to be looked at and try and dismantle that, this idea of charging that much. Um, I don't know, kind of thinking out loud again. I mean, how would they even do that? How would you bring that up to institutions? I think money is a topic that most people don't really want to talk about. Like, this is how much you're paying, end of story. It's interesting to see how people would bring that up and try and solve that situation, and hopefully that can be done in the near future, because it's too much. And just from I'm pretty sure from your research you've noticed this as well, but even before the pandemic there have been a lot of international students traveling for school, so I think this trend is only going to go upwards from now on. So hopefully things change for the better. We hope everything changes for the better always.
But yeah, for like, I don't know who would bring, like, the question you were asking yourself is who would bring awareness about this fact of the money that international students has to pay. And I think since I don't think that local students knows about these tuition fees that are higher for international students, and I think most of the teachers doesn't really care neither, because anyway it's money that they receive also, because it's how they get paid in a way. So I don't think anyone will want to change that, since it's kind of good money for the university also. So
Yeah, exactly. Uh, I just with the research I've done with Dr. Smith, I've learned so much about international learning. But before I joined the team, I didn't know anything. I didn't know that students were paying tuition that high, and maybe the first step to making that change is just educating, the domestic students and letting them know, like, person sitting next to you is paying triple, quadruple the amount you're paying, and they also are probably working, and they're paying for rent, and they're paying for their food and their transportation. Maybe educating the students and kind of banding together and trying to change that. Hopefully, hopefully that can make a difference. But I'm not sure when that would happen. We have to think we're talking, but we really have to make sure that we're also kind of putting this into action too. I don't know. I feel like recently there's been so much changes happening around the world. You know, social media is so powerful nowadays. Someone even started a social media campaign that can go very far. Who knows what that could do, right?
Yeah, right. But you need to have a huge community behind you to do so. So, yeah, it has to start somewhere by someone.
For sure.
Words launched
Yeah.
in the universe. Maybe someone will catch them.
Just gonna. Is there any other topic that you want to talk about? I'm kind of looking at my questions that I have written beforehand. We kind of went through a lot of the things I was thinking about.
Actually, I would like to come back to the question you were asking about what brings international students to move and what actually can make them struggle or like block them to go to an international university. And I would like to ask the question to Bing Bing actually.
Yeah.
If you can write down any thoughts you have about this question. If you don't want to answer, you can also say no. Please don't put me in the on display.
Not sure if he's typing or not, but even if while Bing Bing is typing, we could even talk about some of our other thoughts. Oh, can you repeat the question?
So, what do you think is blocking international students or students to go study in a university abroad? And what will block you except the pandemic, because it's anyway blocking everyone for now. But
While we're waiting, I guess something I kind of just thought of, besides the money, I would think also just, the fear of, going to a new place and not knowing anyone. And even if, let's say you're alone in some place and then moving to another country, even just the surroundings would be different. I feel like that would be something very nerve-wracking and makes it difficult to make your decision. Then he's saying applying to a university in the UK. It's exciting.
but when you look around you with other students around you from China, because I guess you're from China, what are their thoughts about going abroad to study? Is it something common? Is it something that is scary for them? Yeah, I think that maybe you have a point also. It's it's kind of scary to go abroad and to go somewhere you don't know and you don't know anybody, and
For sure.
you have to be lucky enough to have some family sometimes in the country where you want to go, or friends already, or
Yeah, but the reality is, I mean, from what I've been understanding, most students don't know anyone when they're moving to a country abroad. It's a whole new area, it's a whole new language, culture, and it's just so different. So I think that would play a really big part in it as well, just the not knowing and this being on your own, kind of. And I guess that's why it's really important that institutions and students really, really work to try and make international students feel welcome, and this idea of sense of belonging, I think, is really important. Um, just so they feel like they belong there, and they want to be there as well. I mean, um, if you're in a country and you don't feel welcomed, and you're just feeling down all the time, who's to say you're not going to go back home, right? And it's kind of drop what you're doing and leave. That's what I would do if I wasn't. If the idea of this international learning wasn't the way I pictured it, I would be really disappointed. I'd want to leave. So sense of belonging is really important too. Uh, so what are some ways that you try and enhance sense of belonging? I know we kind of talked about this yesterday a little bit in the student panel, but what are some ways that you try and enhance belonging?
Can you say it again, because like there is some kind of crashing thing
Oh,
when you're talking.
yeah, it's my computer. It's being a little loud. When it's on Teams for a little bit, it gets a little annoyed. But I was just saying, what do you do to try and enhance the belonging for your students? So I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but what do you do to try and ensure that students feel welcome so that they want to stay and learn in the country that they're going to?
Uh, well, for my part, I'm not teaching international students at the time. I'm trying to build some kind of medium for them to train, engage in interactions in teamwork. But yeah, actually, the medium that I'm actually building right now is an attempt for them to have a place where they're free to speak, free to express themselves, and to engage also with other international students, because I think it's something really important to be with other students who are living the same thing as you are, because they are more understanding of your needs and how to go through any downtime, or yeah, if I were teaching international students, I don't know, maybe by being open also with them. And really, I think the most important is to create a safe space where they feel welcome and where they feel that they can talk about their problems, about their feelings, about their struggles, etc.
Yeah.
So it's in a way, it's what I'm trying to build right now with the training medium that I want to build.
For sure, yeah. Do you think that would be harder online, or would it be easier? Because I know many international students were saying how they appreciated online because they could write what they want to say instead of saying it out loud, so that or so that the student can kind of proofread their message before sending it. So in a way, online for them was a little more comfortable. But then there were students who said that the online, they felt like it just wasn't welcoming and they couldn't really see anyone because everyone always has their cameras off. So do you think this idea of sense of belonging and welcoming students, do you think it easier online or harder?
Both. I think going through a hybrid kind of thing will be the best, actually, because um, you're still present for your students. You can always tell them if you need something, you can write it down and send me an email. And in the same time, by being in face to face, you don't feel alone in your own place, in your own space. Like you said you're in your room with your bed. And to stay alone like this is not good for your health, I guess. So in a face-to-face situation, even if you are not engaging necessarily with your peers, with the people with who you are, you can still feel some kind of energy. It's kind of like um, it sounds kind of new age what I'm saying, but there is still presence. There is still some people around you, and you feel less alone sometimes, I think. It's not you and your cat at home. I mean, it's you and people around that are kind of living the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh, it sounds really like new age. I'm not a new age person. It sounds really like a new age thing.
But I agree. I mean, seeing actual faces is definitely, I feel like, would be more welcoming than kind of just texting or chatting in a box. So, and I see Bing Bing here wrote something. Chinese students make up a large part of the international students. For me, I want to try a different teaching module in a whole new area. It must be great, and I can be more independent. For most of guides in China, studying abroad is a way to advance their career. So it is the reason why many students still choose to apply for university abroad. Yeah, for sure. And this idea of just getting more experiences outside of the country you are is a big reason why students study abroad, and it's a good reason. I mean, trying to create connections and trying to get outside experience is really amazing. But kind of like what we discussed before, it's this idea of, how accessible is it really to go out and get these experiences? The money and just the nervousness and the newness, I guess, of the new country you're going to would be really difficult. But yeah, I think it's really amazing how one can go from country to country and be in different education systems and learn new things. I never thought about studying abroad, and it's a little late for me now. I'm going into fourth year next year. I don't think we take fourth year students in my program for abroad. But who knows? Maybe if I come back for a graduate program, maybe consider doing abroad there. I think that'd be really amazing.
It's never too late.
Yeah.
I decided to study abroad at my being a PhD student, so it's never too late.
So right now you're in Quebec. Where other places have you studied other than France?
I've not studied abroad apart from Quebec. Actually, I studied I did until my master degree in France.
Okay.
But I worked actually. I'm a French as a foreign language teacher. So I had the occasion to go for internships in Vietnam and Lithuania. I also had like different internships in France with a lot of students from a lot of origins. And I worked for 3 years and a half in Romania, in Europe also. So yeah, that's pretty it. After that, there is a lot of traveling, but I will I will not go through that.
Yeah, that's an impressive list, though. What are some main differences you found in learning in Romania and Vietnam? And what was the other country that you?
Lithuania.
Lithuania. What are
It's also in Europe. Well, all of those countries are former communist countries, and you could really feel it in the learning process. It's really traditional. It's really teacher centered teaching. So it's really the teacher knows everything, and students sometimes can tell something. They can engage with the teacher in Romania, at least. In Lithuania and Vietnam, it was more tricky. Um, And I arrived with new teaching methods. Like all the teachers there were old teachers, not really knowing all the progress and the way to teach and to learn. So I arrived with the method really learner centered, student centered, and it was a big shock for them, for the students at least. Like when I was asking them, do you have any questions, or when I was trying to make them work in groups or whatever, or telling them you can talk to me as a friend, since I was basically the same age as they were. I They were just how to deal with that. They didn't really know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
In Romania, it was kind of the same. There were like some students who were more engaging with me. But sometimes I had to try hard. It was it's easier with smaller groups. Like in Lithuania, I remember I was teaching at universities, like in all of the countries. I was teaching at university, and in Lithuania, they only had one teacher for French as a foreign language, and she was really, really hard on the students. She knew everything, and she wasn't open to any form of interaction with the students. And she made room in her class for me. Like I had 30 minutes at each classes to have an activity with the students, but she was still there, like in the back of the room. And I was trying to have the students talk with me, etc. And she was always behind and going through every mistakes that the students were making when they were speaking to me in French. And at some point, I was just like, no, I can't. I asked her to not be in the class while I was doing my thing.
Yeah.
And the students were just lost. They were just like, she's not here to correct our mistakes. How will we engage in speaking, in
Yeah.
talking with her, with the teacher? So it took me some hard work for them to have a 30 minutes where they knew they could talk to me, they could tell me what went wrong with their with their usual teacher. And after that, it was like easy peasy lemon squeezy. They were just like really talking and re-engaging in French.
Yeah, so it's kind of that initial adjustment, trying to get them to switch from that teacher to student learning. Um, did I think I kind of know the answer, but do you think they preferred student or teacher centered? They probably preferred. Or
I think they preferred the student centered, even though it was more engaging and more difficult for them. But yeah, they preferred that, I think. In some other countries, they were just like so lost that when I asked them to be active in debates or whatever, sometimes they were just like saying yes, no. And they were just not listening at all.
yeah.
They went away in their heads and they were free to go.
It's very different. It's like a big change for the students, I would think. Their whole life they were being taught one way, and then all of a sudden they're being asked to learn another way. So I think it's really amazing that you kind of brought that idea into those classrooms, and hopefully some of those teachers implemented some of those uh, skills. But who knows, right?
Who knows?
Yeah. We have 10 more minutes in our session. Is there anything else you kind of want to discuss from yesterday, or just in general about international learning, or something that I didn't touch on that you want to talk about?
I'm good. Do you have anything you want to talk about? also, because you're presenting, but you can also say things.
I kind of went through the questions I kind of had written before of what things I wanted to discuss. I feel like for me, this symposium, a lot of it is kind of like listening and learning because um, I'm not an international student. Like I said, I've never studied abroad, so it's really amazing to be able to hear other people's experiences and their struggles and their things they liked about international learning, and especially with online, how they've adjusted to the online setting. So I've really appreciated being able to first being here and being able to listen to everyone's experiences and hearing the presenters' research and the things they found about online learning was really amazing. So I'm really glad that I can just be here to listen. So thank you for giving me your ideas and answering my questions, and thank you, Bing, for joining us as well. Thank you for speaking in the chat with us. But if there's nothing else you want to discuss, you can feel free to go out to one of the other sessions. I believe after this we have our break, but let me just double check for you.
Yeah, it's a 30-minute break.
Yeah, so from 12:30 to 1 o'clock we have our break, and then we start into our sessions again. So I guess I'll see you there. Right,
yeah, sure.
All right. Very nice having this discussion with you.
Yeah, for me too. Thank you very much, and thank you for all the organization. All your emails they were really appreciated.
Of course, yeah. I just wanted to make sure that I was always providing enough communication. I'd rather do too much than too little, so I'm glad that you appreciate that. Then, thank you. All right, nice meeting you. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, for me too. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.